So, with the cycling season just kicking off up here in Hokkaido, I figured people might be making plans for bike rides in the 2026 cycling season. So, I thought I'd help you out with my top 5 picks for rides in Hokkaido. Rides you can do on your cycling Hokkaido adventure. Now, if you're new to the show, kind of consider this episode as kind of a passport to the Cycling Hokkaido podcast, because I've done full episodes about each of my top 5 rides before. So I'm going to go through them all here. But if you want a deeper dive into the rides, I will include links to all those episodes in the show notes. Okay, let's get started. Coming in at number 5 is the Northwest Coastline and Wakkanai. I actually did this as separate rides a few years ago, but I know some bike packers out there have made this one ride. So I'm going to combine the two for the purposes of the top 5 rides. Now, I did the coastline from Rumoi to Shosanbetsu a couple of years ago. I started from there because I wanted to avoid those really nasty tunnels just before Mashike on the west coast of Hokkaido. Now, if you're heading north from Sapporo or something like that, if you want, you can avoid the tunnels by going north up Route 275, kind of a bit more inland in Hokkaido. Head up Route 275 to somewhere like Hokuryu or Numata, and then head west to the coast from there. You bypass all that tunnel nastiness. But why I put this on this list is because riding up the coast, at least from Rumoi, is a ride where you can really feel, and not only to Shosanbetsu, but all the way up to Wakkanai, you can really feel just how big and empty Hokkaido can be. Big skies, wide open landscapes, long coastal roads. Plus, there is some really interesting historical points along the way. Things like the site in Tomamai, where in 1919 there was that famous bear attack. This bear attack kind of kicked off the whole reputation of Hokkaido brown bears being killers. Check it out. It's kind of an interesting story. And at the top of my ride, where I rode to Shosanbetsu has the most beautiful of Hokkaido's 5 floating torii gates. And if you're looking for campsites, especially free campsites, right there at that floating torii is a free campsite called Misaki-dai Park Campsite. So if you wanted to spend the night there and then continue on to a place like Wakkanai, ending a ride at a place like Soya Misaki, Cape Soya, Hokkaido's northernmost point, actually Japan's northernmost point, would make for an excellent ride. And I didn't do it in one shot. I rode around Wakkanai as part of a separate ride when I was up there for a soccer game. But anyway, Wakkanai is also a great place to ride. While you're there, make sure you go for a spin on the White Road, or the Shiroi Michi. Now, the people of Hakodate made a really pretty cycling road through the Soya Hills made of crushed scallop shells. It's kind of a cool thing to see. Now, if you went all the way up the northwest coast, all the way up that beautiful coastline, all the way up to the northernmost point in Japan, Cape Soya, that would be an excellent ride, and that's my number 5. Now, if you're heading from south to north, it's usually fine, but be warned. If you do that ride from north to south, the wind can be absolutely brutal. I mean, there are some rolling hills on that ride, and I kid you not, I was pedaling going down some of the larger hills, and I was still barely getting to 13 kilometers per hour. The wind is just unbelievable. So in the show notes for those rides, you probably can make it one ride, but I'll include links to episodes 54, the Northwest Coast, and episode 43, Wakkanai. A great ride. Now, on my top 5 list, coming in at number 4 is Mount Yote. Folks, Mount Yote is a perfect volcanic cone. often called the Fuji of Hokkaido or Eizo Fuji. And if you just do a loop around the mountain, it's only about 60 or 70 kilometers. The terrain in that area is rolling hills, but never really extreme. In the area, there are towns like Kuchan and Niseko. They are right there. And it's one of those rides where the scenery just never, ever gets old because the mountain is always in view and it is gorgeous. Honestly, folks, I don't know what it is, whether I'm on my bike, whether I'm in my car, whether I'm looking out a hotel window. Again, I don't know what it is. When I'm in the presence of Mount Yote, I just feel it's a healing scene. And it is considered sacred to the Ainu people. I don't know what it is about that mountain, but it's just one of Hokkaido's most gorgeous sights. And again, talking about campsites, there are lots of free campsites in the area. Obviously, it's Niseko, it's Kuchan. There are a multitude of pay options as well. But again, you can travel around Niseko without, remortgaging your house. So there are a lot of options if you're looking to ride around Mount Yote or just even in that area. Now, when I went to say hi to Mount Yote last year, I did it as part of a much, much larger loop. From Ishikari, I went through Otaru and did a wild camp on the beach in Fugope. Now, if I could just address wild camping a little bit here, folks. I saw in one of the cycling Facebook groups the other day that people were asking about, can I stay at campsites if they're closed? Kind of a touchy topic, and let me tell you what I think about this. First off, a lot of times when campsites are closed, there is a reason. And that reason could be there have been bears in the area. So check out why a campsite has been closed. If it's seasonally closed, you could probably get away with staying there. In all likelihood, nobody's going to see that you've spent the night, especially you arrive late and leave really early in the morning. Okay, now I've said that might be not the most polite thing to do, but lots of people do it. Again, there are lots of free campsites, and at a lot of these free campsites, there will never be any staff there at all to check you in or check you out. It's a fact of what it is. Wild camping is available. Lots of people do it in parks. But be careful because, you can't really set up a campsite in the middle of Sapporo in Odori Park or anything like that. Lots of parks do allow you to wild camp. Lots of beaches. Many people camp on many beaches here in Hokkaido. It is a thing. You are allowed to do it. If you're not technically allowed, it is kind of forgiven and people look the other way. Even when I was on that beach in Fugope, there were myself and another couple of older ladies who were wild camping as well. Police cars drove right past. They obviously saw us, but it was just a non-issue, You pick up after yourself, you're a responsible camper, don't make it an issue in the coming weeks and months where everybody's leaving garbage that they clamp down on it, My advice would kind of use your intuition, use your common sense, get a lay of the land, and you're probably okay wild camping many places around this island. It's wide open. There are not a lot of people. But, folks, please do be careful. There are risks, especially with bears. Getting back to when I did that ride. I did the wild camp on the beach in Fugope. Then I went by bicycle down through Kyowa to Kuchan, past Mount Yote, spent a bit of time cycling around Mount Yote. Then heading back to Sapporo, I went through Kimobetsu, then back over the Nakayama Pass back into Sapporo. That was a 200-kilometer loop if you're interested in something of that size. And that is all in episode 108 of the show. Again, I will put links in the show notes. Coming in hot at number 3 on my list of top 5 rides to do in Hokkaido is Cape Erimo. Now, this is famous as one of the wildest coastlines, not only in Hokkaido, but in all of Japan, folks. There are dramatic cliffs. and Pacific Ocean views. And cyclists beware, the place is also really famous for wind. Holy smokes. And when I actually got into the wind, when I actually started getting closer and closer to the Cape, wow, they are not joking. It really can be a very, very tough ride because of the wind. But just let me tell you what I did for that ride, folks. I made a 170-kilometer triangle of a ride for it. I spent the night high up in the mountains in a park called Suimebashi Park on Route 236. In the morning, I rode from there to Urakawa, so I went west down the mountain. Then I went south along the coastline to Samani. Folks, this kind of ride might actually be worth spending a couple of days because Samani is really, really cool. Samani town is actually a geopark. It's really amazing, and it's actually the first place where I actually touched a fault line. Like, that's how cool this place is. They've got tunnels that you can see where there's been a progression from the 1800s, 1900s up to present day tunnel construction. That's really cool to see. But again, Samani is worth spending more time in. There's lots to explore there. There's a heart-shaped lake. It's a really, really cool place. A place I actually want to get back to and do a lot more exploring. But so I rode through Samani, then on to through Samani onto the Erimo Cape. Then I spent a bit of time looking around the views at the Cape, which were gorgeous. I mean, what's the museum there called? I think the museum is called the Cape of Wind or something like that. After Erimo, I went back up the eastern coast to a place called Hiro, which is a really odd little place with, I don't know why, but they have a real serious Santa Claus obsession in that town. Then that was kind of cool to check out. These little quirky places along these routes are what make these places so valuable to ride. You know what I mean? Then heading back up to Suimebashi Park was a 30-kilometer climb along Route 236. Folks, I'll be honest, that was not the smartest thing I've ever done. Leaving a climb like that to the end of a 170-kilometer day, but it was my first time in that area. I really... I really didn't kind of know the lay of the land that well. Plus, I'd asked a friend. I said, what do you think of going back up this route? And he went, yeah, mate, no worries. It's not that hard. Liar! You know people like that, right? You've been out on rides with people like that, right? Today's not too bad. It's just going to be an easy spin. You know where that ends up, right? But I was thinking about this. Maybe actually starting that 170-kilometer loop, starting that loop in Hiro would maybe be a good idea, and do the climb to start. Could be something interesting. But that ride, with the combination of ocean view and mountain scenery, was just incredible. I highly recommend that ride. That is why that ride sits at number 3. Anyways, that's all in episode 51 of the Cycling Hokkaido podcast. Number 2 on my top 5 list is Furano and Biei. Now, I've been there a couple of times for riding, and I'm not joking, folks. There are a multitude of possibilities for routes and rides. So I'm not really going to bother you with specific routes that I did, but those towns are gorgeous. It is all rolling farmland, with the famous patchwork hills, named so because all the different colors of the farmlands make the scenery look like a patchwork quilt, right? And in lavender season, that place is just absolutely gorgeous. It's possibly the most photogenic cycling area in all of Japan. Plus, just the endless quiet farm roads, tons of climb descent rhythm as you're going through there. Plus it's got the famous Shirogane Blue Pond. That's in BA. Some of the famous flower places to look at, like for lavender and the likes, would be Shikisai no Oka and Tomida Farms. Those places are just super famous and well worth a visit. Honestly, folks, if someone asks me where to go for their first ride in Hokkaido, this area is almost always at the top of the list. Plus, there are some really, really cool trees throughout the farmland. Some of these trees have names, like the Christmas tree or the Seven Stars trees, or there's a whole bunch of them out there that are really, really famous because they've been in TV shows, they've been in movies, they've been in commercials. One thing, folks, if you do go to visit the trees, please respect the place and do not actually walk onto any farmers' fields. There have been lots of problems with tourists traipsing all over farmers' fields over the years. It got so bad that I think, 2 years ago, one of the farmers out there actually went and cut down a whole line of really, really famous trees as kind of an extreme measure to stop tourists traipsing all through his farmland. It's a real shame that had to happen. So just be aware, folks, do not actually enter any farmland, and be respectful of farmers trying to get their farm equipment in and out of these places. The roads are not just there for cycling. They are working roads, folks, okay? And I will put links up to episode 37 and episode 99 of the podcast for that area. Folks, episode 99 is actually a conversation I had with Brad Bennett. Now, Brad Bennett is the main tour guide and owner of the tour company freewheeling.jp. We had just an excellent ride around the area. Brad is a great dude, folks, and he knows that place like the back of his hand. Get in touch with him if you want. freewheeling.jp. I found riding with an actual tour guide was a really, really good experience because, he took me for some things. He took me for some places. We got lunch at places that I did not know existed. So maybe consider going with a guide in that area. I found it well worth it. And folks, at number 1, the king of kings for cycling here in Hokkaido is the Mikuni Pass in Daisetsuzan National Park. Wow, that place is unreal. And the Mikuni Pass is the highest national highway pass in Hokkaido at 1,139 meters. It is deep inside Daisetsuzan National Park. The climbs are long and steady, and they are just absolute legendary rides. The views of and from Matsumi Bridge, from the top and from the bridge, are just iconic images here in Hokkaido. And make no mistake about it, that is wildlife territory, folks. So keep your head up. There are bear warnings absolutely everywhere. This ride, that area is definitely the gold medal standard for cycling routes here in Hokkaido. I actually climbed up to the pass twice in one weekend. On the Saturday, I climbed up from the Kamikawa side, and on the Sunday, I climbed up from the Kamishihoro side. Both were just incredible climbs, but it was interesting because they both offer very, very different views and scenery. Incredible. Going up from the Kamikawa side, you've got rock formations and just epic waterfalls, while from the Kamishihoro side, you've got more forest and more of the industrial history of Hokkaido on that side. Just incredible. Folks, the deeper dive for those episodes are 110 and 111 of the Cycling Hokkaido podcast. And again, I will post links in the show notes for those if you want to have a better look at what I did and what they're all about. So folks, Those are my top 5 rides here in Hokkaido. Honestly, I could give you a lot more. Well, and actually now, come to think of it, I will next week. I will give you more rides to think about next week. Actually, next week I'm going to go a bit different angle from this. I'm going to go a bit more access readily available rides from Sapporo. Things that are kind of my standards that I go to. This top 5 that I've given you, the Northwest Coast and Wakanai, Mount Yote, Cape Erimo, Furano BA, the Mikuni Pass, those are epic places, but getting to those destinations definitely takes definitely takes a considerable more amount of effort. So next week, I'm going to give you some stuff that's a lot more accessible from the Sapporo area. Okay, so I'll give you another 5 list of rides you can do. And hey, folks, write in if you've ever ridden here, if you've ever done any of those rides. Tell me about the places you think I've missed. Folks, I know that top 5 list might be different from your top 5 list. And let me tell you why. It's because this is a huge island and I have a full-time job. So I haven't been everywhere yet. I'm sure some of you might say there's one glaring omission from this list, and that might be the Shiretoko Peninsula. Now, I've driven out there many years ago. I've been out there by car. I have yet to cycle it because also up until this year, I haven't had a lot of my own free time. That's somewhere I hope to get to in 2026. So, folks, please don't jump all over me asking why Shiretoko is not in my top 5. It's not because I haven't ridden it yet, okay? But please, write in. I would love to hear your top picks for epic rides here in Hokkaido. And folks, if you like what you're hearing, please leave me a kind review and hit that subscribe button. All right, folks, I look forward to hearing from you. I look forward to meeting you out on the road. Love ya. Cycling Hokkaido!